So if you're watching this, I've added the first part of my Gloria Trevi video that I did a couple months ago and added part two to it. So this is going to add more to the victim side of the story and kind of questioning why Gloria Trevi is trying to sue victims and trying to silence victims of a crime that she and Sergio Andrade were both charged with. Let's get into it. What is happening to Diddy right now, I don't think should surprise many of us at this point, right? It doesn't surprise me. A couple years ago, there was a very interesting case that happened in Mexico of an artist by the name of Gloria Trevi and her manager named Sergio Andrade. And it was similar to Diddy in the RICO, sex trafficking, cult, Nexium level type of crimes. And it's a story that, you know, unless you watched it played out on TV and heard about it through conversations with your friends, it would amaze you and surprise you the cover ups that exist and how parents are willing to sell their kids to an industry to have their little boys and girls be performing monkeys to a certain degree, allow themselves to be part of a dream. I'll admit, I probably watch TV and I watch a lot of these artists sing their little hearts out, and I wanted to do the same. I certainly did. I think many of us could attest to that. We wanted to be maybe a Britney Spears or an NSYNC or a Gloria Trevi or whatever it may be. Now, some of you guys, I know my audience may not all be familiar with this story, but I think it's important to highlight it because it shows you that abuse, selling of children, all these things, it knows no bounds. Every culture, every community, every country is currently dealing with something very similar. A very similar Diddy situation where you have a man who wants to have more than one wife, has a desire to have young wives, multiple partners. Now, to a certain degree, if that is how you get down, no judgment, right? You do your freaky deaky stuff. What if they're young girls or little boys and you're promising them industry credits, names, movies, different things to get your way? You're gaslighting them. You're making them feel confused. And that is what happened with Sergio Andrade and Gloria Trevi and this cult that they created. Or did they? Because some may argue that Gloria Trevi was only 16 years old at the time that she met Sergio Andrade, that she was just a victim of this. And even now, in 2024, she's decided to speak up about certain things regarding this. There was a lawsuit filed recently, just in the last year, accusing her music producer, manager, father of her child, that he assaulted her, that he did something to her. These Hollywood stories of these powerful individuals that make promises and the victims that are too scared to speak out, they keep repeating themselves time and time again. And then you have the parents that will willfully give their children out to this industry. When Gloria Trevi was discovered by Sergio Andrade, she basically took the media and the music industry by storm because she was dubbed the Mexican Madonna. Now, if you know about Madonna, back in, her time, she was very provocative. Actually, she's still very provocative. She hasn't quite stopped. But she was one of the first real pop stars in Mexico that really pushed the envelope in various sexualizing topics. Okay, so one of the songs that I remember as a little girl hearing on the radio, I didn't understand what the lyrics were, and actually a lot of the music that Gloria Trevi sang back in the day when I was a child was really meant to basically toss the middle finger to anything that was traditional in a home, any traditional values. So, of course, my family being, Catholic, Spanish speaking, very traditional, very quiet, very humble, Gloria Trevi was not something that we supported, my family supported, right? But when we would hear a song, it was always about inspiring and misbehaving, and the idea that well-behaved women rarely make history. That was the kind of vibe that you got from Gloria Trevi. There's one song called Virgins of the Virgins, Virgen de las Vírgenes, all right? And the lyrics was about Gloria had a friend who had sex with 10 men. And the friend would tell everybody that this was her first time every time that she was having sex, okay? And that's because she was the most virgin of all virgins. The song was really meant to test any traditional values that you had at home, right? Whereas I remember it was about abstinence or go to hell. Gloria Trevi was singing these songs that really said, I'm testing that. And it was a big middle finger to traditional family values. It was one of those things where it tested a lot of parents. I mean, the woman was, speaking ill of the Pope, speaking ill of these, leaders. And, if you're Catholic and that's your upbringing and you're coming from that, Gloria really spoke against any of that, right? So she was one of the first pop artists that really tested people's boundaries. And this is why they named her the Mexican Madonna. When you see Gloria Trevi perform, she was very relatable to someone like myself and other girls that maybe we didn't come up with a lot of money, right? Gloria Trevi made her outfits, her performing outfits, out of torn up shirts. She did all that. Very creative. Torn up pantyhose. And you would see her dancing the stage, and her hair would be like amazing. You couldn't run a comb through her hair, right? She had this like raggedy look about her, but it was for a purpose. And girls wanted to do that. They wanted to look like that. She was essentially anti-establishment, anti-traditions for the women, and wanted to take women out of these traditions of you have to do this, you have to marry young, you have to have children young. That was the image that we got from Gloria Trevi. Now, it turned dark for Gloria Trevi. And as a young girl, I watched this play out as well. I wanted to share something with you guys as I'm talking about the story and why I wanted to talk about Gloria Trevi on my channel. Even though I probably have a lot of followers that have no idea who this woman is, and y'all are probably learning about her here with me, and that's okay. Culturally, every culture, every country has an industry that is currently dealing with demons that take over, right? These, whether it's political, music industry, things like that. And to me, what we're seeing with Diddy right now, we're seeing the fall from a person who was never in grace, by the way, but we're seeing somebody's fall. We're seeing someone's enterprise fall right through. Y'all are watching it. We're watching it together. And essentially, that's what happened with Gloria Trevi and her manager, Sergio Andrade. There was a fall. The only difference is that there was a cult that was built with Gloria Trevi. Very much Nexium level situation. It's a very important story to tell because every culture, every country, every different household that you see out there is dealing with something very similar. Let's get into it. The incredible story of how Gloria Trevi and her manager, Sergio Andrade, went on the run with a group of young female singers who later alleged abuse. Gloria Trevi exploded onto the pop music scene in Mexico with a wild TV performance in 1989 that initially got her banned from the television station. Gloria Trevi would perform and she would sometimes, rip her clothes apart, rip somebody's clothes apart. Gloria Trevi became famous because she had very outspoken social views, her antics and her defiant lyrics and attitude. At the time, Gloria Trevi's manager, Sergio Andrade, was known being able to make people successful and with the ability to mold young talent. Gloria Trevi was not his first to mold. Unbeknownst to most, though, Sergio Andrade was sleeping with much of the talent that he was managing, repeatedly marrying teenage brides who were aspiring pop artists. Sergio Andrade impregnated several of the girls, including Gloria Trevi, and also insisted on multiple abortions. Several later came forward with allegations of abuse. One of his wives left the clan. They had formed this clan, and these women was a bit of a sister wife situation, I would say, without the religion to a certain degree. He was married to one of the girls that he was managing and they were performing. He was also having relationships with them. So in addition to his wife, he was having relationships with all these women and managing them and basically running a situation as such, right? When the wife left the clan, divorced him, and published a book, Sergio took the other women to Spain and later Brazil, where they were eventually found. Now, some of these women were underage. It was said that Gloria Trevi, through her performances, through the things that she was doing, she was also recruiting some of these women to join this clan and all of them be together. The parents of these women, because some of these were minors, came out and were looking for their daughters, right? And then they were hearing that they had gotten pregnant, there was children involved. They got worried and they started going to the authorities and filing the appropriate police reports, right? Well, when they got wind of this, they fled. They went to Brazil, they went to other countries, to Spain, and eventually they were found and apprehended. Both Sergio and Gloria Trevi spent time in a Brazilian prison. A lot of the women told stories of horrific abuse between them. What Sergio Andrade would do is he would basically pin these women up against each other to a certain degree. Some of the women would be jealous of each other. There was a situation where Gloria Trevi became pregnant at one point while they were on the run, and she had a baby. And the baby, who was fathered by Sergio, passed away. There has been so many speculations as to how this baby passed away, why this baby passed away, what they did to this baby. Did somebody hurt the baby? There have been so many stories about this baby. At the end of the day, the body has never been recovered. We don't know what happened. The only truly people that know what happened to this baby is Gloria and the other women that were witnesses to what happened. When Gloria Trevi and Sergio Andrade were captured, they were extradited to Mexico. Now, Sergio Andrade was found guilty of rape and kidnapping of minors, while Gloria Trevi was acquitted of all charges. She already spent more than 4 years behind bars. This saga of this clan, this sex clan, this, what happened behind the scenes, who was involved, parents just giving up custody of their kids to somebody random on the stranger, which isn't any different than just, what happened with Usher, and Diddy was giving custody of Usher. I mean, that happens. It's a very common thing in the industry where people are just giving up their kids to these people without really thinking of the consequences. I mean, that's not new. That's like a cultural thing in Hollywood, and I'll never understand it. You could even say the same for R. Kelly, because some of the parents really just say, well, my child wanted to perform and he promised us this and that and the other, and then come to find out they're involved in some crazy non-consenting entanglement, and these kids were minors, some of them, and the handlers are just looking away, and the people are looking away, excusing, playing the blame game, which I have a feeling we're going to see a lot more with Diddy, right? A journalist by the name of Christopher McDougall wrote a book about Gloria Trevi. The book is called Girl Trouble, the true saga of a superstar, Gloria Trevi, and the secret teenage sex cult that stunned the world. Now, Gloria Trevi came out of this. She has been trying to essentially tell her story in the way in which people understand that she is innocent of a lot of things, that she also was a child at some point, was recruited into this, fell victim to a lot of this manipulation that was happening. A lot of the women in this clan were pointing fingers at each other. Some of them were younger, some of them were older. And so people had a lot of questions as to who bears responsibility. Of course, Sergio Andrade has never been charged with anything here in the United States because, nothing. I don't believe the crimes were here, but he has been charged. And it's interesting because it's my understanding that Sergio Andrade is currently running for some political office in Mexico, which I find that to be amazing given that he's been charged. I don't understand why he would be eligible for any of that, but those are different laws. Christopher McDougall, who wrote Girl Trouble, as a journalist, started really putting out their details because he was able to interview both Gloria Trevi and Sergio Andrade behind bars. And there were details that really became coming out of this clan, this situation, where families of these women were tricked. There was a lot of hidden pregnancies. Babies had been abandoned. Young girls brainwashed, and there was underage teens married repeatedly to Sergio Andrade. There were charges of rape, kidnapping, and corruption of minors. And eventually, some of these teenagers gathered the courage to tell their allegations of torture. They were being forced to eat their own vomit, and were moved as a group from house to house, country to country, to avoid any type of detection, any type of detection or anybody recognizing them. The women in the group allege that Gloria Trevi had been instrumental in recruiting many of the girls and ensuring that they were submissive and participated in sex act with Sergio and the other women. Now, while Gloria Trevi was in the Brazilian prison, she was fighting this extradition from Brazil to Mexico, further adding to the craziness of this story, okay? Gloria becomes pregnant behind bars. She spent 2 years in an all female unit without any conjugal visits. They later did a DNA on the baby, and it was determined that the baby was of Sergio Andrade, her manager, who was also in prison at the time. Sergio Andrade was the father of this baby. The guards in this prison had allegedly been bribed to allow the couple to spend time together in an attorney-client interview room. While Gloria Trevi was in prison, she initially defended Sergio Andrade, her manager, but eventually she's changed her mind. Okay. After she was sent back to Mexico in 2004, she and a female backup dancer were all cleared of the charges due to insufficient evidence. She had served 4 years and 8 months in jail. For Andrade's part, Sergio Andrade's part, he was convicted in 2005 on charges of rape and kidnapping of minors and was sentenced to 7 years and 10 months in jail. But he was allowed to go free on time served by paying about 1 million pesos to his main accuser, who was just 12 when she joined the clan. Regardless of the allegations that were made against Gloria Trevi, she didn't have a whole lot of trouble making a comeback into the industry in Mexico. Her past hasn't quite seemed to have tainted the fans' opinions about her. Now, in the Latino community, some folks feel like Gloria Trevi is not a victim, that she consented to be with this man and she was okay with the things that he had done to his victims, and that she is likely not a victim. That's what some people believe. Other folks believe that, oh, that she was a victim and that she was brainwashed and she thought she was with somebody that she would be with for the rest of her life. If you watch the first part, we're adding part two here. I felt like it was appropriate to add the story into one instead of making multiple videos. This part two has been a long time coming. And let me just say that it took me a minute to figure things out here because I thought it was important to include the victims of these crimes that were committed by Gloria Trevi, Sergio Andrade, and Mari Boquitas. All right. Now, I found this really great documentary that really encompassed some of the victim statements. Okay. Some of you guys may be like, well, why is it important to share like this story, right? Why is it important? Well, Gloria Trevi, Sergio Andrade, and Mari Boquitas have all been exposed in Mexico, right? But a lot of the fans here don't really know the story behind Gloria Trevi other than the Netflix series, which, by the way, was very much geared towards painting Gloria a certain light, right? Like giving her story a certain light. Now, I'm not saying that she is not a victim. I definitely believe that Gloria Trevi was a victim because when she got with Sergio Andrade, she basically was manipulated, right? However, she stayed with them many years and was doing a lot of the recruiting of young girls to be in this singing group, only to then have them be violated, have them all be pregnant, have them all be married to Sergio Andrade. And Gloria was doing a lot of the coercing of these women. This is why she spent a lot of time behind bars. But it's a little bit different when you hear it from the victim side. The other thing that's very important too is that Gloria Trevi actively has tried to silence critics, people that speak out, people that have something to say about, you know, the other victims, that people that want to amplify those other voices, which I don't think it's fair. I mean, even as of recent, she has tried to sue Karla De La Cuesta, one of the survivors who has written books. There is an active lawsuit in Mexico that Gloria has filed against Karla De La Cuesta. And Karla De La Cuesta, my understanding is that she also wrote her book in English, which I plan to order and hopefully talk about here on this channel. I want to be able to amplify these voices because if a lot of these crimes were committed in the US, Gloria Trevi would not have been able to reform her career. Let me read you a comment from a fan that came into my chat when I started talking about Gloria Trevi. You are so wrong. She don't want her name to be used to make money, not the content. You got to do some research first. And then they respond, Gloria Trevi is awesome. She's going to win all the legal battles. Mind you, she is suing victims. She wants to be able to do Netflix series and books and all kinds of stuff using the story, but she doesn't want the victims to speak out. And this is where I feel like it's not fair, because a lot of the women that were recruited were young girls when she was an adult. When she at some point had became an adult, she was recruiting young girls to be with Sergio, and she would have these young girls write love letters to Sergio so that the Mexican authorities would see this as a consensual situation. This story is so complex, guys, that I wouldn't be able to do right if I didn't play a little bit of the victim stories, okay? And I also want to shout out a channel by the name of Poncho TV Reloaded, okay? Poncho TV Reloaded is somebody that I've been following for a couple of years now, who has exposed a lot of the Gloria Trevi, Sergio Andrade crimes. I mean, this guy has been threatened. He's been through the ringer over exposing and giving the victims a platform. Okay, so I wanted to amplify his channel and show it, and show that, you know, there's another side to this story. And hopefully next week we're going to have him here on this channel to interview him. I cannot wait, because I think it's going to be a fantastic interview. It'll be in Spanish, but I'll be translating it in English. Let's get into this commentary, this other side, okay?
Live on stage, one of Latin America's biggest superstars. This is Gloria Trevi. Trevi was Mexico's answer to Madonna. Celebrating unmarried sex, masturbation, and teenage rebellion, she broke all the rules in Catholic Mexico and emerged as a superstar. Then the unthinkable happened. Gloria Trevi became Mexico's most hated criminal. After a police manhunt, Trevi was arrested with 2 accomplices.
Somos inocentes, señor.
She has been charged with kidnapping, corrupting, and raping a 12-year-old girl. Her co-accused are manager Sergio Andrade and a backing singer, Mary Boquitas. The lurid crime has since taken a dramatic twist. A number of young women revealed that 7 babies had been fathered by Trevi's manager. Charges of procurement, torture, and rape followed. Gloria Trevi once sang to millions.
And this was a documentary that was done in the early 2000s, right? Amplifying the voices of the victims. We're going to definitely take the copyright bullet, because I think it's important to show this other side, because it gives you translated testimonies of these victims. I give you guys the biggest trigger warning, because this is a story that Gloria Trevi, who's this mega superstar who lives in the United States, who's very litigious, does not want people to know. And I think it's important. You cannot silence the victims, just like nobody should silence you.
Now, in a solitary police cell, she sings alone.
Porque soy la conciencia de tu conveniencia, porque soy la verdad desnuda y puesta al sol.
For one young woman, it all began 10 years earlier, outside a local radio station in Mexico City. Her name was Aline Hernandez.
This
is the place where the whole story started. I remember I was standing here with my friends, waiting for a singer to come out. There was a parked car over there. A girl with her hair in plaits came over. She told me she was working in a school for acting, modeling, and singing, and asked if I was interested in going there. I was very excited. I'd always wanted to be a singer. I gave her my details. She asked my name. I said Aline. She asked how old I was. I said 13. And she said,
Perfecto, 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 edad perfecta.
I didn't know then what it was the perfect age for. I asked her, what is your name? And she said,
Gloria Treviño.
Al día siguiente fui a
2 weeks later, I went to the school, which was horrendous. It was a tiny office in a small, ugly house.
Mi mamá me esperó en una de las salas.
My mother waited for me in one of the downstairs rooms.
Yo pasé con Gloria a la oficina de arriba.
Gloria took me to the upstairs office. And there he was, sitting behind his desk. Andrade, a fat man who looked stern and bitter.
En esta habitación fue donde hice mi
I did my very first audition in this room. Sergio was at the desk over here. There used to be a chair over there, and over there was a piano. I sang, I danced, I acted, and I modeled. And for a large part of the audition, Gloria sat next to him.
Al final de la audición,
At the end of the audition, Gloria sent for me from another room. She brought me here and told me, Aline, we still have to do part of the audition, which is without your clothes on, because Andrade needs to see which parts of your body need exercising. I was really frightened and shocked.
Fue aquí donde mi mamá me estaba esperando mientras...
My mother waited for me in this room while I did my audition upstairs with Andrade, and while Gloria was asking me, can you believe it, to strip my clothes off.
Aline refused to strip. Sergio Andrade took this Polaroid of the 13-year-old in her pink dance clothes.
Gloria me vuelve a decir, oye...
Gloria came and told me that Sergio said I was mega talented and that he was very pleased with me, that I was incredibly lucky as he wasn't going to charge my family a penny for me to study there.
Aline started attending classes at Andrade's office twice a week. Gradually, Gloria Trevi began to pressurize her into showing him another kind of attention.
This is that recruitment part, right? This pressuring, this coercion. This is what was alleged that Gloria Trevi did. And this, Eileen and other victims, this is their stories, right? That they've encountered. She was only 13. She was a child at the time. Gloria was an adult by then. So this is the stories that she doesn't want publicized publicly in the US, because Mexico already knows about her. Mexico doesn't have the same love that they have for her when she first started.
Gloria would pull me out of my classes and sit me down on a chair over here, and she'd go on and on and on about Andrade, Andrade, Andrade.
Me empezó a decir que él era un hombre misterioso.
She told me he was mysterious but wonderful, charming, talented and sensitive, and that he'd suffered a lot in love.
Estaba convencida de que él era un buen hombre.
She convinced me that he was a good man and that I had to be the girl who would make him believe in love again. That was the mission in life that Gloria imposed on me.
Me impusieron. Yo me asustaba mucho.
I was very scared, but she threatened me. Gloria told me I had to follow it through because he was a good man and he was going to make me famous and produce a record for me. She convinced me.
Sacar un disco. Entonces me convencía, ¿no? Cuando yo me hago novia de Andrade, o sea, imagínate, yo...
When I started having sex with Andrade, I was 14 and he was 34. I had no idea what it was like to have a boyfriend.
Me dice, nada más falta una importante, Aline.
Gloria said that the most important thing was not to tell my parents because they wouldn't understand. They'd take me away from the school and ruin my chances of becoming a famous singer.
Te pueden regañar o sacarte del... quitarte la vida.
I promised her I wouldn't say anything to my parents. And I didn't.
What Aline didn't realize was that Gloria Trevi and a backing singer called Mary Baquitas were also having sex with him. Andrade had a harem of young women. The 14-year-old was beginning 2 years of hell.
He had a hold on these women. He would use Gloria Trevi, who publicly already had a name. I mean, she was famous. She was a Mexican Madonna. I mean, every little girl wanted to be like her, okay? And she would attract children, little girls, right, to be part of this singing team. They would go audition. They'd have to take off their clothes in front of Sergio Andrade. Okay? This is that side, that story that people don't want to talk about, right? Every industry has its beasts. This is one of them.
The Trevi image targeted children. Her growing fame allowed her to recruit more girls for her manager. By 1990, her career had taken off.
Gloria Trevi.
With hit singles, sellout concerts, TV spectaculars, and even feature films. Trevi mania had gripped Mexico. Children adored her and imitated her provocative style.
Los niños.
Oh, I love children so much.
As Gloria toured Latin America, more girls were recruited to the camp. A 16-year-old from Argentina and more teenagers from the Mexican provinces. Gloria Trevi was building an entourage of girls seduced by her image.
Sergio y Gloria, había para mí cierto prototipo físico.
Sergio Andrade and Gloria Trevi wanted certain characteristics. They looked for girls who were slim and tall with nicely formed bodies. Girls who were very naive, young and malleable, of around 13, 14 or 15. And they wanted girls from poor backgrounds and broken homes who needed both money and affection. And above all, girls who craved fame.
And this is important, okay, because there is a specific type that they looked for. When I saw this documentary, because I've been watching it a couple times just to kind of, give commentary and thinking about what I'm going to say, right? When I was reading the comments under this documentary, because they were kind of like back and forth. First, they're saying, well, she's a victim too. Others were saying, well, they wanted to sleep with them because they wanted to be famous. Like they deserved everything that happened to them. There is this like divide in the comments. And some of them are from Mexico and some of them you could, because they're self-disclosing where they're from and, other parts of the world. And it's interesting to see the split between folks here. What people fail to understand is all of the victims here were children. Gloria was a child at some point until she wasn't, right? Until she participated in the recruitment of these younger kids. And they were promising them all kinds of things. And one thing that's very important to understand is a lot of the people that were recruited came from very poor backgrounds. They didn't have the money. So you talking about a super mega star coming at you, offering you money, an opportunity to be famous. Yeah, you're going to take it. You're going to, do what you have to do. I mean, a lot of celebrities, they're where they're at because of the fact that they probably had to sleep their way up to the top, right? And it's not to justify any of it. It's the reality. We have a lot of people that don't have any talent, but that they slept with the right person to get to where they needed to go. And they might have participated in recruitment of some sorts, right? Of recruiting of others.
De querer realmente ser famosa y que ese tipo de,
The burning ambition to be famous will make you do anything to achieve it.
Lupita Carrasco arrived in Mexico City at the age of 19, seeking fame in the capital. She had come from the countryside after winning a series of beauty contests.
I wanted to be someone more than anything. I wanted to be a famous actress.
In October 1995, Lupita Carrasco was a national finalist in Miss Mexico. During the rehearsals, Lupita, on the left, took the stage knowing that two famous personalities were in the audience. The superstar Gloria Trevi and her manager, Sergio Andrade. As the Miss Mexico finals drew to a close, the contestants heard that Trevi was hoping to cast glamorous girls in a new Mexican soap opera. Casting sessions were held in a nearby hotel. The teenager from the poor Mexican village was offered fame on a plate.
Me dijeron que me iban a dar un curso de aproximadamente 2 meses.
They promised to give me a 2-month course in acting to train me to appear in the soap opera.
Entrar en la telenovela.
Lupita was told that her training would take place at the Pink House, Andrade's home in a wealthy suburb of Mexico City. Welcome to Morelos. This was to become Lupita's home. She would live with 7 other girls, some as young as 13.
Aquí esto es lo que antes.
This used to be the Pink House. Sergio Andrade and Gloria Trevi lived here. It was Andrade's favorite house. He liked it a lot. It looks like a prison. Even though the wall is high, there's barbed wire on top.
Estas son las recámaras.
There are 3 bedrooms up there on the top floor. I slept in the middle one.
A veces llega.
Gloria used to come and talk to me about my background. She'd ask me about my family and about the kind of person I was to find out my weak points, so that they could manipulate me better. I also talked a lot with Andrade. He said he was going to help me and help my family with the money I would earn in the soap opera. His encouragement motivated me. He told me that I was very talented, only that I was a rough diamond that had to be polished. I was very excited. I was thinking about my family and my mother as well as myself.
Somos de escasos recursos.
I come from a poor family. I felt grateful to him.
But Lupita's escape from poverty soon became a nightmare of emotional coercion. One day, Gloria Trevi tricked Lupita into believing that she had angered Andrade and was in danger of being expelled from the Pink House.
Me dijo que la única manera era.
She said that the only way to help the situation was to write a letter to Andrade telling him how much I loved him.
Le dije, pues es que yo.
I said I didn't love him, so why would I want to do that?
Me dijo, pero es que si.
She said that if I didn't write it, he would kick me out.
This letter piece is very important, right? Because having somebody write a letter, this is Mexico, basically signifies consent one way or another. Can you imagine that? You're being coerced to write a letter to this man that you don't love, but you have to write it on paper so you don't get kicked out of this academy, you know, and you have a family? Like what?
Wouldn't be able to help my mother. I'd leave as a failure.
¿Qué le vas a decir a tu familia?
Gloria asked me what I would tell my parents.
Pues no pudiste con el.
That I was someone who wasn't up to working with her? She dictated the letter to me. I was very frightened. She took me to his room. I gave him the letter.
Lupita claims that with the love letter in his possession, Andrade went to her room one night and raped her. In a court of law, the letter would imply sexual consent.
Me siento bastante
I felt so guilty because I had written the letter. I didn't want to leave the house because I wanted to work with her. But if I wanted to stay, I had to agree to have sex with him. From then on, it happened again and again.
Yo ya no sabía si realmente estaba ahí porque.
I didn't know if I was staying because I wanted to be famous or because I wanted to help my family. I was confused.
Instead of finding fame, Lupita had become trapped in a web of control and manipulation. Escape seemed impossible.
Now let's talk about this thing where Gloria Trevi is trying to silence victims, right? This is Karla De La Cuesta, who I believe holds a PhD, and she has been, advocating and doing what she has to do to stand up against what has happened to her and others while this clan cult was happening. 2 teenage sisters, Carola and Katia De La Cuesta, made similar allegations of sexual abuse against Andrade and Trevi, who had originally hired them as backup singers. There was another teenager, Delia Gonzalez, claimed she had also been recruited by Gloria Trevi and had been forced into making a pornographic film and had endured 9 months of repeated R-ing and beatings by Andrade. As I mentioned before, there was Karina Yapor, who in 1996, she was 12 years old, and she left her home in Mexico and went to live with Sergio and Gloria Trevi in Mexico City. A year later, at the age of 13, she had given birth to a baby boy and claimed that Sergio Andrade is the father. So she later wrote a book about her experience, both the physical and psychological abuse that she had to survive. Gloria Trevi and Mari Boquita. So these three specific individuals have, ran this bit of a clan or cult and were recruiting young girls. And they would move constantly because they were looking for these young girls. These young girls were being violated, were being punished, physically abused, made to do horrific things like eat vomit, all kinds of horrible things. So guys, let me ask you guys a question. I mean, I get that Gloria Trevi is a victim, and then there's a huge fan base. I mean, the minute that I even said remotely anything about Gloria Trevi, the fans immediately came into my comments and tried to tell me about myself. And I don't think so. Like, I think I think fair is fair, just as much as we can recognize that Gloria Trevi was probably a victim and, was a victim during her time there. The other women, which it's said that the numbers are skewed, there's probably 40 or more victims of this clan, some of which have not been reported, and that the media in Mexico, both in the Mexico and US, have been in cahoots with Gloria Trevi to try to fix her image one way or another. This is why YouTube channels like Poncho Reloaded TV, Poncho TV Reloaded, another great channel that if you speak Spanish, you're just gonna love. Trending News by Monica. Trending News by Monica. Trending News by Monica actually spoke on Liam Payne. So I've been watching her, but Poncho TV Reloaded was one that I've been watching for quite some time. And it really inspired me to, bring this more to my English speaking audience, my bilingual audience a bit, so that you guys can dissect this story. It's been a long time coming, but I cannot wait to bring Poncho and anybody else that wants to speak on this case and what happened to them so that we can actually expose it here in the US. Because like I said, Mexico knows. US and the image and the fan base here is a little bit different. Y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'll see you guys on the next one. Rabbits out. Bye, guys.